Saudi Arabia wants Bashar al-Assad out of Syria. Foreign Minister Adel al-Jubeir says Syria's president should resign or let the military oust him.
Al-Jubeir sat down in an exclusive interview with CBS This Morning anchor Norah O'Donnell.
Russia says it's in Syria to defeat ISIS. Do you believe that's why they're there?
I believe that there is an international coalition to fight ISIS in Syria. And this coalition includes a number of countries, and I believe that if the Russians want to be part of that coalition, I doubt any of the members would mind.
But they're currently not.
Correct. So the question that it begs is, why would they go to Syria unilaterally to fight Daesh when there is an international coalition in place fighting Daesh as we speak?
And what do you believe is the answer to that? What are their motives?
I believe it's to support Bashar al-Assad.
Russia says there can be a broad coalition in Syria with Assad in power. Is that conceivable?
Inconceivable. They're proposing a coalition with Assad to fight against Daesh in Syria. He was the person who created them.
So you believe Russia is complicating this effort?
I think that their assessment of the situation and their assessment of what's doable and not doable in Syria may not be correct.
Would the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia consider putting their soldiers, their boots on the ground in Syria to defeat ISIS?
We have our aircraft flying in Syria, over Syria, to combat ISIS. We continue to be part of this coalition. With regards to any other issues, I think we have to consider all the options and see and do a cost-benefit analysis.
So what do you think should be done? I mean, what's going to break the logjam in Syria?
I believe there has to be more robust intervention in Syria. I believe that the world has to be more firm in insisting that Bashar al-Assad leave. If he wants to leave through a political process, that would be preferable.
In your view, how long could Assad stay in power under any exit deal? Secretary Kerry seemed to say that Assad would stick around until ISIS was defeated.
This could be a long term. I don't know. I think a political transition would require, as I mentioned, a governing council that takes over authority, prepares the country for elections, writes a new constitution, maintains the institutions of the state, both military and civilian, while Assad departs.
And Norah joins us now. Norah, the news is that Russia has launched its first airstrikes in Syria. How do you think that news is being received in Saudi Arabia based on the conversation you had?
Well, we know this morning that Secretary of State John Kerry has already called his counterpart, Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov, and expressed his concern about these Russian airstrikes. They are going to have several more meetings today because they are here for the UN meeting. So this is a concern for the United States. And as you heard, Arab leaders are especially concerned about this. I mean, this is the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. Arabs spurn military push by Moscow inside Syria. I think the point being made, as you heard the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Adel al-Jubeir, make with me, it is inconceivable that there can be a situation where Assad remains in power. That is their view. And yet Russia's president is saying, well, we can work out some kind of coalition with Assad remaining. This is really further complicating efforts. I think let's just take a step back, larger geopolitically. This is the first time in decades that Russia has had a large-scale military operation in the Middle East. Number one, why are they doing that? Number two, you have already had 10 countries as part of this coalition, Arab countries, as well as the United States, Britain, France, others, who have been trying to take out ISIS in Iraq, in Syria for the past year. What is a result of that action over the past year by those 10 countries? ISIS has actually grown. So why is now Russia getting involved in this? What are Russia's motives in this? And so this just complicates this entire picture of Syria, which is already a magnet for jihadists, which is already responsible for part of this huge migration across Europe that is causing lots of problems. I mean, this is a powder keg. This is a mess. It's getting worse.
So given everything that you just said, I mean, we heard the foreign minister say, or we heard Adel al-Jubeir say, more robust intervention is needed. But what realistically does that look like? Because you mentioned this coalition and ISIS has spread.
Look, Charlie and Gail and I were just talking about, we need a map to sort of show exactly what's going on in Syria, right? Because Assad is battling these moderate opposition forces, which are supported by Arab countries and others, as well as Assad is supposedly battling ISIS. So it's a multi-pronged war. I think the concern is that, very privately, there are many of these Arab countries who have been supported with weapons, some of these moderate opposition forces. And the undercurrent is that they may even increase that support to those moderate opposition forces. This is just becoming a multi-pronged war with not clear about who's battling who. You also have, I think, and a military expert could talk about this better than I do, but if you have Russian aircraft in the air, if you have coalition aircraft, meaning U.S., Arab aircraft in the air over Iraq and Syria, there's a lot of military coordination that's got to be going on there, and I think is just sort of complicating that picture. Who are all the sides in this battle? And bottom line, what concerns the U.S. and its Arab allies is that this just could prolong the period that Assad remains in power.
You know, the question comes up over and over again about boots on the ground, because it really seems like these airstrikes aren't doing the damage that they had hoped. More robust intervention, great. What did the minister say about possibly boots on the ground?
You know, I think the question has been boots on the ground to do what? And I think there are some boots on the ground for targeting of airstrikes, but the question has been boots on the ground to do what? There won't be U.S. boots on the ground in Syria.
Saudi Arabian?
It does not appear at this point that they would put any boots on the ground. They want to arm loyal forces that are already in Syria and increase that support.
Are the Saudis disappointed by the U.S.'s role and what the U.S. has or has not done and been able to do so far when it comes to Syria?
I asked that specific question because, as our own David Martin at the Pentagon reported yesterday, the U.S. has had a $500 million program to help train and equip these moderate opposition forces. There have been 5 soldiers who were trained, and so now the Pentagon is suspending that program. I asked the Saudi foreign minister, why do you think this U.S. program has been such a failure? And he said, you'll have to ask the Pentagon that question. But we've offered to provide support. We've offered to help provide training, and that has not happened. So it's a complicated picture.
Sounds like it. Norah O'Donnell, thank you very much.
Thank you.